to today's edition of our training, that is the PHP training. And today we would like to talk about conditional statements in PHP. We would like to talk about conditional statements. So most of the time in writing our program, we would like to take decisions based on certain conditions. We would like to take conditions based on certain decisions that we encounter in our programs. So we would like to use the conditional statement to take those decisions. In PHP, it gives us access to two basic ones. We have two. So we have the if, then else, if, and the last one, that is the else part. And then we have also the switch and then the case. Switch, then we have the case with the default like this. But today in our tutorial we'll be discussing much of the if, else if, and then the else in taking decisions and then certain conditions. Okay, so let's quickly move to the if. So how does this if statement work? This if statement only works when the condition inside this if block is true. So condition like this, we form an if condition with this. So if, then the condition comes inside this bracket, then if the condition is true, the code that you want to execute, so code that you want to execute just like this. So this is how the if statement is being formed. We have the condition, then the code is the code that we want to execute inside the curly bracket. So let's try with an example on how it works. So I'll quickly create a new file, then I'll save it. So saving it, I already have a folder that I save it. So XAMPP, then I have the HC docs. So PHP tutorials, inside this is the folder where I save all my files. So let me save this as condition.php. There. So having this page, let's begin by putting the script, that's the PHP script, inside. Okay, good. Without understanding, let's try to turn on or start our XAMPP so that we can run this on our browser or on our server. So XAMPP control, then I'll turn on the Apache and then my SQL, but I need only the Apache for now. Okay, so I said in order to write a if statement, we have the if, then the condition, we have the condition inside, then we have this type of bracket, then the code that we want to execute inside. Okay, so now you can test this condition using the operators that we can use conditional operators to check. You can use conditional operators to check. So let's try our hands on this. Let's first create a variable here. Let me give this variable maybe a, and let me assign a number to it. For example, let's say 18. So with this, we are just trying to do a simple validation for someone, if someone is eligible to vote or not. And in our country, we all know that a person should be 18 and above before the person can vote. So with that simple scenario, let's try to create a condition. I've created a value and I've stored 18 inside, assuming, or let me say age rather. So assuming the person's age is 18, we want to check, or we want to validate if the person is up to 18, is more than 18, then we can allow the person to vote. So let's quickly move to the condition and let's create a condition. So we can check to see if age is, let's say, greater than or equal to 18. So meaning that if the person is greater than or equal to 18, then we can say that, let's echo something like maybe allow the person to vote. Like this. This is a simple script or a simple condition that we are checking. So let's save this and let's try to execute this script. Let me open my browser. Okay, now let me check something before we continue. Okay, let's continue. I was trying to check for the time. Okay, let me paste the file path. So I'll change this one to local host, then enter. Alright, so you can see that we have allowed the person to vote, because you all know that from our script we said we give the person age 18. So let's give the person 17 and let's see something. Let's save it, then try to refresh our browser. So after refreshing our browser, we see that we have an empty page displaying nothing. So the code didn't execute simply because this condition is false. This condition is false. That's why this code inside this if condition gave us false. So with this, it will lead us to the second block that we call the else part. So this one will lead us to the else part. If the person is below 18, what should we do? Maybe we can say that report the person to the police, or maybe arrest the person. So it leads us to the else part. So else, what should we do? So else, maybe echo report the person to the police. Just simple like this. So we can now refresh our browser to see. Now you can see that we have report the person to the police because the person is below 18 years. Just like this. Okay, so this is how the else part works. With the else, we don't give a condition. So if the person is 18 and above, so change this one to maybe 56 rather, save, and then let's try to refresh. So you can allow the person to vote, and if the person is below the age of 18, we can say that report the person to the police. This is simple condition that we tested using the if and then the else. Now let's try to implement the else part. let's try to implement the else part. That's the else if part, rather. The else if part. Okay, now let me try to comment this part. And then let's work with the if, else if, and then the else again. So I've commented what I did previously. Okay, now assuming that I want to create a new variable, this time around let's try to use a grade. Let's try to build a simple grading system, assuming that when a student gets maybe 80 and above, we give the person maybe grade A. From 70 above, we give the person grade B, and 60 upwards grade C. Then below that, we give the person maybe grade D. So ours will start from A, getting to the last part, that which is D. We are trying to build a simple if, else if, and then the else. We are trying to add these three things together. So let's create a variable called grade, like this. So this is the let's give it a mark, the mark that the student, rather. So mark, maybe the student had 78, for example. So let's try to grade the student based on the marks, or the mark that the student had. So let's try to build a condition. So let's use the if, then the condition. So what is the first condition? I said if the student gets 80 and above, we should give the person grade A. So we can say that if variable marks, like this, is greater than, let's say equal to 80, now inside this we can say that echo, you can say that this is a grade A, simple like this. So let's try to implement the else if part also. Else if the person gets 70 and above. So with the else if, we also type the else, then if, with the condition like this, then the code. So else if, what is the condition? If mark rather is also greater than or equal to 70, like this, then what is the code that we want to execute? We can say that echo grade B, simple like this. Now with the else if, we can implement the if inside this block once, but with the else if, we can implement it several times. So I can add another else if in this statement again, but I can't add if in this same if block. But I can, after this if block, I can write another if. So else if, what is the condition? If max, if mark is greater than or equal to 60, then let's try to print out something. So echo grade C, as simple as this. Then the latter part, so if the student, or if the student gets anything below 60, let's try to display maybe grade D, or maybe fail, for example. So this leads us to the else part. So this is the else part. So else, then you can echo maybe fail, like this. So you can save this and try to run. Now let's try to check. We gave us the student's mark of 78, so we assume that 78 lies in this second block, so we are expecting to see grade B. So let's try to refresh to see. So we have grade B because it falls in the second part, which is the mark being greater than 70. So assuming that the student gets, or the student had 39, a mark of 39, then let's try to see something. We have field being displayed. So this is how we can implement if else if in our decision. And also we can have if, a nested if. So let's try to talk about a nested if. So with a nested if, it can fall inside this first if, the second else if, the third else if again, and also it can be in the latter part, which is the field, that's the else part. So okay, now when the max is below 60, let's try to check something. Let's take max being below 60 is not filled, but rather let's try to check for another condition before we can say that the student has filled or not. So let's try to check. So inside this else, we can even add if statement and if statement. So if, let's try to check again. So if the mark is also greater than or equal to let's say 45, let's give the person a grade D rather. So echo grade D. Then we can even add the else part. So else, then you can say that echo this time around, if it's less than 45, you can say that filled or student has filled, like this. So now let's save it. Let's try to save it, then refresh our browser again. So you can see that we have student has filled. Now let's try to change the figure again for the mark. Let's give the person 50, save, then let's try to refresh. We have grade D, which is in the else part. So this is how we can implement the if in making decisions and also testing for conditions. Let me check for my time. Alright, so let's try to add something. Let's try to add something to this. So the person gets grade A. Let's try to add something, maybe excellent, to the person upon this if else. So this is the first block of statement that we check. So let's try to check for another. That was what I was trying to explain, that inside an if statement we can't include if, but rather outside the first condition, that's the if, we can also add another if in a different condition. So assuming that we've checked for the mark, we want to give the grade. This time around we want to add some application like maybe excellent, very good, good to the person. Though we can do that in this condition, but I want us to add another condition to know that each of them will work perfectly. So assuming that we can also do the same check. So if then condition mark is greater than or equal to 80. Upon getting grade A, let's try to add. So echo excellent. Excellent to the grade A that he had, or he or she had. Else, it if it falls, else if, then you state the condition again. Mark so greater than or equal to or 70. Using the same, you can say echo very good, like this. Then another else if again, mark being greater or equal to 60, you can echo good. To the person. Then let's take the else part. So else, let's add maybe echo, maybe pass, just to test. You have this. Now you have the mark being 50. Let's try to refresh our browser to see what happens. So we have grade D and we also have pass, which falls at the else part because it's below 60, which is the good, and then falls in the else part, so it gives us pass. Now let's change the mark to something like 85. Okay, now let's save it and then try to refresh. So we have grade A, then excellent. So this is how we can use the if, else if, and then the else in making decision. Thank you for viewing these tutorials, and if you have any question, you can send it in the number below through WhatsApp, and I'll be glad to answer those questions for you. Thank you very much for coming, and see you next time. Good day. Bye.